Okay, Chapter 7, Sections 2 and 3. We got up to Industrial Revolution with the Agricultural Revolution, the Second Agricultural Revolution. And now we're at that point where we're ready to transition into the Industrial Revolution. Where we start is with something that's called cottage industry, or what your book refers to as the putting out system. Cottage industry sounds much more history-y to me. So we'll go with cottage industry because literally the industry took place in cottages. You did it at your own home. It's sometimes called piecework as well. You were doing a small piece of the work that needed to be done. It's very much like the factory system where one person does one step of the process. It's just that everybody wasn't in one building together. So the cottage industry emerges as the Industrial Revolution, emerges as the factory system. And that transition, this arrow here, is the Industrial Revolution. Okay? That transition is what gets us there. Now the question is, what ingredients did we need to create this factory system? We had to have all the ingredients to bake our factory cake. What ingredients did we need?
Inventions.
What?
Inventions.
Inventions.
Natural resources.
Oh, we needed plenty of natural resources. And guys, this is such a key. These things are needed anywhere you want to industrialize. There will be places in the world that even still today have in large part not industrialized. And generally that has a lot to do with a lack of natural resources. Drew?
City population.
We need adequate population in the right places. We need that population in cities to work in the factories because that's where we're going to build them. We also need an adequate population to harvest the natural resources to send to the cities to be put into the factories where the people are living who are working in the factories. What else?
Investors.
We need
Entrepreneurs.
adequate financial capital. We need enough people putting money into banks for the banks to be able to lend that money out. England had a fantastic banking system, and that is a huge reason why the Industrial Revolution starts in England. Remember when we talked about all the reasons why the Renaissance started in Italy? Similar list of reasons for why the Industrial Revolution starts in England. That's a big one. You guys said something else as I was writing that up there.
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs. You got to have the people with the ideas to put together the inventions with the money. That is a very hard word to spell while you are speaking. I think I got close.
It's right.
It's right.
You're
Okay.
always
Oh, stop. It hurts. This is the 21st century.
right. Floating.
Color wheel of death. Now I've angered it.
Easy apple gods.
I think it moved down a little bit.
Just a tiny.
You know what? I forgot the number one rule of computer touching. When it doesn't respond immediately, don't keep antagonizing it. Then it becomes the mommy syndrome. Or when you finally get an answer, it freaks out on you! What else?
Oh,
Enterprise.
That is the combination of entrepreneurs and adequate financial capital.
stability, stable government.
There you go. You gotta have a stable government. Okay. If you are Ford, you're building your new aluminum F-150 trucks, and you want to expand. You've got enough money. You've got this idea, you want to expand your global market, and you're looking for a great place in the world to go and build a new factory. Is Syria at the top of your list?
No.
Why not?
Civil unrest.
It lacks a stable government, also lacks an adequate population at this point. Most of them are across the border in neighboring countries. Not a whole lot of aluminum to be harvested in Syria. Okay, number of reasons. But stable government, guys, if you are an entrepreneur, are you going to put your enterprise in a risky location? No. Makes you kind of wonder why anybody ever builds anything in California anymore, right? If the government changes, what could happen to your investment? You could lose it. Governments can do things like nationalize industries. They could just go in and say, oh, this is ours. We own the water bottle industry and the goldfish industry now. Yep. We own these industries now, and so they're ours because we're the new government and we're the boss of you. And then that government gets overthrown, and the new government ends up with all of this stuff. How do you feel about your investment in your water bottles now? So, there you go. Okay. All right. Follow how critical that is. Did Britain have a stable government by this time? Pretty much since the English Civil War. Smooth sailing. All right. Anything else? How many ingredients do we have here? We have 6 ingredients. That's it?
Yeah.
You make a pound cake. To the string, have something to do with it?
That is one of the reasons why England industrialized, but not necessarily a requirement for industrialization.
All right.
If that distinction makes sense to you. Okay, so I gotta figure out what we're missing. We are not missing, oh, yes we are.
Oh.
One more. Transportation system. You must have some sort of a transport system. In England, what did that transport system consist of?
Lots and lots of canals.
Rivers and canals, which are essentially man-made rivers. Rivers that go where you want them to. I heard turnpikes, which are essentially toll roads. Roads that we don't just let any joker walk on. You gotta pay for the privilege. Why was that the first kind of major reliable road in England? Somebody else. These two are carrying the weight for the rest of y'all. No. I'm gonna hold out for somebody else. Hunter?
It's privately owned, so you don't rely on the government.
Well, it's because the government wasn't providing the road. When the government isn't providing something that the people need, business will generally step up and do it. But what does business require in order to do something for you? That you pay for it. And so turnpikes grow up because they connect one place with another and you pay to use it. So who gets the benefit of the road? The people using it. And they're the ones who pay for it. It's the perfect system. For instance, every morning I drive down Overland Trail, down Lincoln Street, up 84th, and up Centennial. And yet I'm paying taxes to maintain all these other roads in the city of the Papillion that I never drive on. What a waste.
Never.
But can you imagine what the toll I would pay to drive on a private road from my house to this high school would be? Uh-huh. But we started with turnpikes. What else eventually?
Railroads.
Railroads. Choo-choos. And eventually, when we want to trade what we make with people outside our country, what's it really nice to have?
Access to ports.
Ports. To be able to ship the goods out of your country, it's really nice to have a good harbor. Okay. This is the big idea of 7.2 in a nutshell. Now there are specifics. For instance, some of the inventions that were key in beginning. What industry was the first one to industrialize in Britain? What are some of the inventions that were key?
Flying shuttle.
The flying shuttle,
Spinning jenny.
the spinning jenny,
Water.
the water frame. Those were all key because what resource did England have tons of?
Sheep.
Sheep. Lots and lots of wool in England.
Flying shuttle.
Lots of wool. So, all of that wool is the natural resource to feed into the textiles. Now, England also has kind of a big colony somewhere over in Asia. India, yes. Thank you very much. Okay. And the British, and we'll talk about this in chapter 10 when we talk about imperialism, the British were not always the most benevolent of imperial masters. They kind of had a tendency to be bossy, and they said to the Indians, you will be planting cash crops. These are crops that can be harvested and immediately turned around for a profit. And one of the cash crops that they required the Indian people to plant was cotton. Cotton. Now, up to that point, they hadn't forced the Indians to plant cotton. That point being roughly 1861. What was going on somewhere else in the world in 1861? Whose Civil War? Because there's a lot of Civil Wars. The American Civil War. What was one of the northern strategies to defeat the South? Out-manufacture, yes. Another one that would impact the British.
Okay, their ports.
Called the Anaconda Plan. Squeeze them to death by blockading their ports. What was South's major product?
Cotton.
Cotton. The major product in the South is cotton because of a huge invention called the cotton gin, which separates the little seeds from the cotton bolls that come out of the cotton plant. Prior to the cotton gin, it was getting to be too expensive, even with slavery, to mass manufacture cotton. Because to get those seeds out, somebody had to sit around and comb the cotton by hand and pick those seeds out. Very tedious, very labor intensive, really increased the cost of cotton. Cotton production was beginning to wane. And then a guy patents the cotton gin. He's not actually the inventor of the cotton gin. He's just the first one to turn his patent papers in. Who is it?
Whitney.
Eli Whitney. And all of a sudden machines can do what it had taken many, many hours for humans to do. and cotton is all of a sudden hugely profitable again. And so Britain, textile provider to the world, starts making not just wool fabric, but also cotton fabric. And they are relying very heavily on their trading partner, the United States. And when the United States develops this little internal dispute, and all of a sudden England can't get cotton, that natural resource, into its factories, it goes, and England is in big financial danger as a nation. They need to keep feeding their factories. And so they turn to India and say, plant cotton, make this better. And within a couple growing seasons, everything's okay. And then guess what happened? The Civil War eventually ended, right? Cotton production from the US had been going on. It ramps up even. And we dump all of our cotton on the global market, forces cotton prices even lower because there's so much cotton out there. And England's textile industry is again in trouble because when there's so much cotton, then there can be lots of cotton cloth because the United States has by that time also industrialized. And now there's all kinds of nice cotton cloth on the market, and there's not as much profit in it. Follow all of that? So it is truly world history. Oh. What do you know? What do you know? All right. Shall we do 7-3?
Wow. Okay.
It's the nutshell version, but there's not a ton of deep thinking to do about it. Let's add another page here.
Let's all the way down in that corner where it says.
No. Think it's that one?
No, left. Oh,
No, the
wait,
arrow.
you just press the
That
arrow.
one.
Okay. It's been a long time since I've actually used the software. When I upgraded the operating system on my computer, Smart no longer provides it to you for free. And I had to wait for payday to get the new software. So, we're good.
Yay!
All right. 7-3 is all about what the Industrial Revolution does to people. How it changes their lives. How it changes the world that they live in. And we today very much live in a global world, right? Because of the internet, because of cable news and satellites and jet air travel, we are global citizens. And what happens somewhere on the other side of the world really does affect us, maybe not directly, but it impacts your life. Back then, what kind of world did people live in?
Their local area.
Yeah, the world they could see, the world they could experience. If you lived in London, what happened in Scotland didn't matter a whole lot to you. Shoot, what happened in Liverpool didn't matter a whole lot to you. What mattered was what happened in London, and more specifically in your neighborhood, maybe down in the East End or in Chelsea. What happened on your block matters. Well, here's the deal. You have left the farm fairly rapidly as the enclosure movement was going on. Large numbers of you moved to the city. Right? Okay. You guys over here. Up. Off of your farms. Bring your stuff with you. Move to the city. Bring your notebook with you. Move to the city.
So no one's farming now?
City of Lights.
Well, you can stay on the farm. You enclosed all of this land. Everybody else, move to the city. Oh, no. The city's these 9 desks. Move to the city.
I moved in an apartment. There's room up here. I don't know.
I don't think Will's gonna be able
You're going to be here a while. Like for the rest of your life, you may want to get comfortable.
to farm all that.
Oh.
And he's
Okay.
gonna die, so don't touch him.
Alright. What's the problem here?
Overcrowding.
Definitely.
Amy's sick, so we're gonna sick. We're gonna get sick too.
And Elliot's
Disease.
The plague is spreading.
Okay, industrial revolutions. Industrial revolution problems. Overcrowding. That's right, because the cities were not ready for you to come. In fact, most of them weren't cities when you showed up. And they've got to go, what do we do? Real quickly. And then someone said, Amy's sitting here coughing, oh my gosh, we're all going to get disease because of the overcrowding. The overcrowding.
Yeah, Elliot's all about dying today.
We've got people sleeping in the hallways of this apartment building. We've got way too many people crowded into the apartments. This is an uncomfortable situation, right? It's a little. You're really comfortable, Trevor? Fortunately, there weren't necessarily food shortages because Will's doing such a good job over here on the farm.
Thanks, bro.
Yes, ma'am.
Sanitation
Ah.
or lack of.
We have poor sanitary conditions. We don't have sewers.
See? My point, exactly.
Wow,
That
okay.
looks pretty.
And, well, it's really out of alignment over here for some reason. And we also don't have trash collection. Okay, no trash collection.
Yes.
Yes, you all have jobs. They're factory jobs.
I lost a finger at work today.
You lost a finger at work today. That's terrible. What kind of jobs? What kind? How?
Long hours.
And
Dangerous
Harsh
jobs.
conditions.
low pay.
No pressure.
I thought that was.
Now, despite the fact that your wages are really low, you are still earning more than you earned when you were over here on the farm. But I'm going to have to charge you rent. You don't have to pay for your food instead of growing it. And because you're spending so many hours in the factory, you might start buying some of your other stuff in stores instead of making it yourself, like clothes.
And there goes our wages.
Uh-huh. There you go. And then what did you say about the actual jobs?
Long hours.
Yeah, you lost a finger. Dangerous working conditions. You guys know what OSHA is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration that says we have to have sneeze guards on our buffets, and they put the stickers on the top 2 steps of your ladders that say, not a step. Stand here and die. They're the ones who say, don't rip this sticker or this label off of your pillow.
Or you'll die.
They're the ones who tell you that you have to wear a hard hat on a construction site and steel-toed boots. And they recommend that you not, they inserted into our building codes the fact that electrical outlets have to be a certain distance apart. Anybody know why electrical outlets have to be a certain distance apart? So you can't do this. Yeah. You keep trying. Wow. Elliot, maybe we would schedule a special appointment with guidance about that. Okay. All right. You may go back. The city will eventually expand, though you will never have the same luxurious living conditions as you did on the farm. You're still crowded in. Yes, ma'am. There's lots of short answer questions. Okay. Now, although there are lots of problems with the Industrial Revolution, there are actually even some benefits. What would they include?
He's confused.
Like, how does that work with electrical outlets? Like,
I can't reach both of them at the same time
I
to
know
stick
you-
my fingers in.
oh, just stick your fingers in.
Or screwdrivers
Okay,
or
I thought you
whatever.
were just sticking like plugs in. I was like, if you plug two things in at once.
See, that's, I told him he was gonna get electrocuted and he goes, that doesn't work.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Keep your butter knife out of the electrical outlets.
Yeah.
Also, don't get clever and think that you'll get Hannah to hold your hand and she'll plug a knife into one and you'll plug a knife into the other. That also poor idea.
That's a terrible.
The human body is a great conductor of electricity.
I
No one
tried
ever
to
thought
pull
of that
it,
until you just gave us that idea.
Oh, he was already thinking about it. All right, what are our Industrial Revolution benefits? What does the Industrial Revolution give us that's good?
Machine factories, technology.
We have
What did all of you have when you were over here?
Money.
Oh, a job.
A job. So benefits. Jobs. There are more jobs.
Yay.
People can have jobs. Ken has job? What did I tell you were doing in that job? You were earning,
Earning money.
it was a low wage, but it was still
Money.
more money
Then the phone.
than before. If you, when you lived on the farm, if you had the money and you wanted to buy a dress, how would that dress compare back when you were on the farm to now in the Industrial Revolution?
The dress now would be better quality.
It's better, well, not necessarily better quality, but it's going to be cheaper. So another benefit is the decreased cost of goods. Now that we have the Industrial Revolution, we have the necessary transportation system for the Industrial Revolution to utilize. Guess what else can travel via those modes? People can go on turnpikes and rivers and canals and railroads, not just stuff. And guess what?
What?
It's possible for you to travel beyond your little world, and it's far less expensive for you to travel. Before, you didn't travel because you couldn't walk there, and you couldn't afford a carriage or a horse to do it. Now, for train fare, you can do it. So your world is going to grow a little bit. All of these things add up to something that's kind of an economic concept. We call it standard of living. It refers to basically how good is your life in general. In the Industrial Revolution, is your life better or worse than it was on the farm or about the same?
Possibly slightly better.
It's better. You have an improved standard of living. Now, we've had the bad and the good. We didn't talk about one of the bads because your book doesn't tell you about it. But what do you suppose this Industrial Revolution did to the government, or to the environment? Actually, it does talk about it a little bit, and specifically in reference to one city in England.
Oh.
Yeah, Manchester. Huge, terrible air pollution. That contributes to the unsanitary living conditions. People would cough, especially if you worked in the coal mines. You would cough, and your sputum would be black with coal dust. And when you burn coal, that soot that's released into the atmosphere, sometimes you could go days without seeing the sun in some of the most industrialized English cities because the clouds of smog that were created just hung over the city. And so you're breathing that in, that particulate that's in the air. Doesn't help with the disease conditions. Okay? So we've got good, we've got bad, and then we've got the ladies' lot in the Industrial Revolution. What do the ladies have to deal with. What makes the Industrial Revolution, while better, particularly crummier for the gals?
For starters, they still don't have any sort of voice in anything.
Why don't you keep your opinions to yourself? Can I hear from a gentleman? Did I make my point?
You repeat the question.
I said what made it particularly rotten for women during the Industrial Revolution, and Raina posited that perhaps women didn't have a voice in things, and I suggested she keep her mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're particularly amused by that, Alex. Gentlemen, you just don't care how the women suffered. Ben, did you read the section?
Yes, I did. I took notes.
What happened to the women? Okay, so you're in the factory, you're on the line. Lexi's working next to you on the line. What are you earning every day? Let's say 75 cents a day. What's Lexi earning?
25.
Is she doing the same job as you are?
Yeah.
Because she's a girl. Okay, so women had lower wages. Lexi's actually pretty lucky to be doing the same job as you. Because in many, many factories, what kinds of jobs did women get? The most dangerous, the most hazardous, the most embarrassing, the most awful jobs. When it comes to the meat packing industry, women would get the jobs where small hands were useful. Women ended up being sausage makers very, very often because it helped to have a delicate touch to clean the intestine, which required you basically grab it and push all the poo out and then rinse it out and then stuff the sausage in. Fun! By the way, no rubber gloves, so you basically have your hands in buckets and buckets of fecal matter all day long. Check right now, ladies, look at your hands. Does anyone have a hangnail or a cut of any kind on your fingers?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
So,
Are we good there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
I can't guess he's got a shade.
Oh yeah.
Long hours. Long hours. Here's a fun one for you. A lot of times the video told you 14-hour days. Not uncommon. Fellas, if you're working at your station in the factory and you have to say, go potty, is that particularly difficult for you to step a foot or two away and take care of that issue? Gentlemen. No. Ladies, is it as easy for you in your corsets and dresses and all your undergarments and the fact that you can't just point at the corner and be done? And yet, a 15-minute break every 4 hours was not part of legislation. You got a half hour for lunch. So you might end up very dehydrated because you would figure out, I can't drink. Oh, by the way, when you were thirsty, you didn't just get to leave and go get a drink. So needing to relieve yourself didn't become much of a problem. What'd you do with your kids while you went to work at the factory, the little ones?
They work, they just come with.
Well, not the infants. There was no daycare. There was no daycare. You'd leave them at home with maybe one older kid, but you had to have weaned them first because your older daughter isn't going to be able to breastfeed the kids for you. Which points out that you still had to keep house in addition to working. Do any of you ever go home after your grueling 7-hour day at school and go, oh, I can't even, and throw yourself down on the couch and do nothing all night long?
You know?
Do you ever think about doing that or wish that you could?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine doubling your school day. You're going to be here from 8 until 10 at night. And when you get home, you have laundry to do, and not the kind where you put it in and close the lid and push the button. You have laundry to do. And you have meals to cook, and beds to change, and rooms to clean, and babies to bathe. And then you can go to sleep and get up and do it all over again the next day. Fellas, is it any wonder that when you came home, drunk on payday, that your wife started harping at you about not being there, about not bringing the money home? By the way, fellas, you would have helped with virtually none of that in general. There were exceptions, but in general, you would do nothing. So, the Middle Ages were bad. Who's excited now that we've advanced to the Industrial Age? Yay! Things are better? Oh, wait till we start talking about what we can do with factories beyond make clothes. Because being able to manufacture, being able to manufacture more efficiently and with quality control and reduce costs allows us to make all sorts of things on a big scale, including weapons. So, questions? Yes.
Why did
Why do goods not cost as much? Because we are making them all in one place. We don't have to pay our workers very much. And we're able to make more of them in the same amount of time. So that just economically forces the prices down. Yep. Okay.
Yay.
What did I miss?
I made me stop the recording here.
It's actually like not.